Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I'm your host, Al Richards, and we are here with a great guest today. We've got Brendan Handyman, right? Is that how you say the last name?
Yeah, but that's my Yahoo email account, but it's Hermanson.
Hermanson?
Yeah, Hermanson.
Okay, and I'll make sure that I get that before we get off the air. So, because that's all I had was the Brandon Handyman. So I thought that was kind of an odd last name, but
that's
my decide, right?
And you all know I'm a handyman.
Yeah, there you go. So that's why you laughed when I mentioned earlier, you'll never find a wall that's straight, right?
Correct. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I got it. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about the prescription addiction. And as we go through Brendan's story, you're going to understand why we actually picked that topic. And gosh, we got the pleasure today of having Mason Neufeld in the studio with us today, being on the other side of the camera. Yeah, so usually he's behind the camera. Yeah. So Mason, thank you for wanting to be the guest co-host today.
Really, thanks for having me.
Really do appreciate
it. This is fun.
It is fun, huh? Matter of fact, we're going to have you on the show here in another couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Right? About a week February or 2 weeks. Maybe is it February?
Yeah.
Don't hold me to it because my schedule, I was actually
I put on my schedule and I was like, crap.
Yeah. I was actually a guest on a podcast this morning, and guess what? I totally spaced it off. They called me like at 10 minutes after I was supposed to be there and asked where I was at. But anyway, that's another story. Brandon, oh my gosh, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here. And on the air, I just want to say thank you to Tina Erdman for introducing us. So I met Tina at a networking group through the West Jordan Chamber of Commerce, and we've become friends, and just an awesome lady. Very sweet lady. Yeah.
It's an honor to be her cousin for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I love her car. I love her car.
You mean my car?
Oh, is it your car? No. So I've been.
That's what I tell everybody. I don't know how she got those plates, Miss T. She must have took mine off, but it's beautiful.
I need to talk to my wife to see if she'll allow me to date Tina one night, just so I can ride around in her car, because it is a badass car.
It is very badass, for sure.
Yeah. So again, Brendan, thank you again so much for taking time out of your day to spend it with us. Tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I don't know. I guess everybody knows now I'm a handyman.
Yeah, right.
And that's pretty much what I've done my whole life, is working the construction, the trades, skilled trades, labor union, stuff like that. So, pretty physical work my whole life. And some years ago, I'm 54 now. I guess right around the time I was 30, I suffered a back injury at work, and started going to the doctor, seeing the doctor about that. And their solution to that whole thing was to give me pain medication. And so that's kind of what started the whole ball rolling with me getting addicted to narcotics, so to speak. But I don't know that I don't really know that there's so much in between there, Al. I don't know where to go with this, but
I think a good one is like, when did you start noticing it became an addiction?
Yeah, good question.
Because first it was back pain. I'm creating a solution, but then what went after that?
Yeah, Mason, I gotta tell you, it took many years, honestly, for me to actually figure out that was becoming a problem. I was just taking the medication as prescribed and going back for my my monthly checkups and getting prescriptions refilled. And that went on for several years. And I just thought it was the new way life was going to be lived, I would say it took about 5 years before I started getting sick and having more ailments from the so the thing about pain medications, I think, is it doesn't you don't feel the pain anymore. It doesn't cure the pain. You just are oblivious to it being there, more or less. So I kept on working, and I basically was working myself to death, because I couldn't feel the pain, and I told them that the pain was still there, so they kept upping the dose, to make it tolerable, so I could stay in the workforce. I think was part of their angle, keep me working, and they did. They succeeded for a while.
So basically, from your bio, they had you on Vicodin, they had you also on Percocets, and then of course the one that a ton of people got addicted to, which actually started them on heroin, was the OXYCONTIN.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the way it went. My first visit was the Vicodin, and then, that worked for a couple of days, and then it just didn't at some point, and then they just upped it. They kept upping the dose and upping the strength, and then they, when that medication, my body acclimated to that, they just switched over to a heavier narcotic. So, throughout the years, it went from Vicodin to Percocet to OxyContin. I was even on fentanyl patches for a little while. And that's about the time that I started noticing the change in my lifestyle, my mental state, my physical state, it just didn't even really dawn on me. I figured the doctors knew what they were doing, and I was following their orders, and it just became, but it took me actually getting sick a couple of times and ending up in the hospital. And then I kind of put two and two together that, my goodness, I don't have the flu 3 times a year. I don't get sick like that. I'm a relatively healthy human. And then I kind of pieced it together. I had an epiphany or an aha moment that said, it's the drugs that I'm taking that are making me sick so many times a year. Because I couldn't really figure it out. I just know I had fevers, I had chills, I wasn't feeling well, So I finally did that, and then I went back to my primary doctor and told him that I can't take these medications anymore. And his answer to me was, well, I don't know what to do for you. I can only prescribe you more. I said, well, how do I get off of this shit now that I figured out that it's messing me up more than helping me? He said, you'll have to contact a clinic or go to a rehab facility. And I was just shocked. I'm like, what the hell? I broke down. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Now I'm addicted to this stuff. And I didn't even know that was a thing. Unfortunately, I don't know why. I just was not privy to that kind of information. So it struck me really, really hard. And of course, I got really, really pissed off at my doctors. I got a new doctor. And then I did what he recommended me to do. I started going to a methadone clinic. And that was basically the same thing. All they were doing was giving you liquid narcotics, and it was the same type of thing. It was just organized drug dealing as far as I see it,
Yeah.
So life became very bleak. I was caught in this situation where I needed the drug to basically maintain and survive, to keep a roof over my head and my family, and however, and get off this medication that was killing me.
What year was this, if you don't mind me asking, Brendan? When you first hurt your back and when they started prescribing these to you?
So I was somewhere around 30 years old. It's been such a long time. It's 25 years now. I'm 54 now, so it's been a while.
So that puts us in the 90s, right?
98.
98?
Yeah, 97, 98.
So, and the reason why I'm asking that question, is Perdue Pharma, the Sackler family, who invented the OxyContin, who basically pushed their salespeople, really lying to their salespeople, paying them a shitload of money, going in and getting these doctors to prescribe patients these OxyContins, saying that there's a 1% chance of you becoming addicted. And I think in the late 90s, it was already starting to snowball like crazy. Because if I remember right, it was the late 80s into the early 90s. And I don't know if you've had the opportunity to watch on Hulu the 8-part series called Dope Sick.
Oh, sure. I haven't watched it yet, but I do know it's on my list, actually.
Yeah. You watch Dope Sick, and then also watch The Pharmacist.
Okay.
And you can find that, I know Dope Sick is on Hulu, and The Pharmacist is, I believe, on Prime and Netflix. It could be on Netflix
I watched
as well.
on Netflix. I saw that. That's the documentary, right?
The documentary with the pharmacist, right? Yeah. And you will. I got goosebumps already sitting here. By the time the second series or third series came on, Brendan, I was pissed as hell. I mean, I'm sitting in my living room on the couch with my wife, and I'm going, how the hell did these sons of bitches get away with this? And why is nothing being done? And there are thousands and thousands of people that are fighting them. They're fighting them because they've killed so many people. And when the overdoses really started happening, and there was a ton of them, well, Mr. Sackler himself, the one who really pushed this, they actually got an interview on him. He's taught, and they say it in the movie as well. He's like, no, it's not our drug. We'll push it on the addicts. So they started blaming the addicts. Well, these people weren't addicts until they got on the frickin' OxyContin.
For sure.
So yeah, you can already tell I'm getting pretty upset talking about it because it's bullshit.
I was pissed off. I know you're feeling for sure. I was living it, and it made me so mad. Mad.
I like how
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I like how you said well, I think you said you didn't have privilege comes up to it, but you didn't know that addiction was a thing.
Right.
Or I really thought that was crazy. And then just linking to what Al said about pushing it on the addicts, and then people not even becoming an addict until they do that. I think that's a really good key point, is maybe people don't even really acknowledge what addiction is until they've already become an addict, and they're like, whoa. So I think a good thing is about this is talking about educating, which is why I love the other side of the addiction.
Yeah.
So thank you for saying that. That's a really good thing for me to feed off of. That was great.
For sure. I blindly followed the doctor's orders and not knowing. I mean, I wish I was a fly on the wall and I could actually figure it out sooner. But no, I thought, the guy in the white coat knew what the hell he was talking about. So I'm not a big fan nowadays, but back in the day, I was like, oh yeah, the doctor said type stuff. And well, the doctor messed me up.
Well, and with you even saying that, Brendan, Utah is one of the worst states when it comes to prescription drugs. I mean, we are one of the worst. Okay. There are so many people that are on prescription drugs, and we're talking Valium.
Well, the huge thing
Xanax,
the huge thing right now is Adderall, because people are having issues fulfilling their Adderall prescription, or Vyvanse or whatever, which is what, another meth addiction? It's getting crazy in here, really crazy.
And what really gets me upset, well, I don't even know if upset's the word. I guess just irritated is, and I'm not knocking all doctors, because there are some good doctors. I mean, I will go through doctors like crazy till I find one that I really know that is there for me, there for my health, there to listen to me, not to pull out a pen and piece of paper and say, we'll fill this prescription for you, go get it filled, right? Yeah. I want them to come. Yeah. I want them to find the root of the problem, not Band-Aid the problem, because basically that's what addiction is, right? People aren't really, it's not the addiction, it's the pain that they're covering up. So it's the Band-Aid. Now where was I go? Oh, so what gets me upset is a lot of these people will be the first ones to sit and put down, and I'm just as guilty. I've not been on prescription drugs. However, I've been guilty putting down the addicts and the alcoholics that are on the streets. Now that I've put myself in the realm, they're regular people who have lost themselves. They've just got, by the time they realize they're in the mud puddle all the way up to their chin, it's a bitch to get out, right? It's like quicksand, right? And they're just barely hanging on. And I've talked to other people, and they tell me about their prescriptions that they're on, and you said it, Brendan. It's okay because my doctor prescribed it. It's okay. So, so you're not an addict because your doctor prescribed it, right? But
Well,
yet they
doesn't
have
work
to have it filled every single month because it's like they can't live without it.
Mhm.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and that was one of the things. Well, when this all happened, and I finally did clean myself up, going to the methadone clinics and using another drug called Suboxone actually helped me kind of kick that off. And it was hard. Don't get me wrong; it took a long time for me to do that. But then I was stuck with the decision to make: how am I going to stay in my profession and do home improvements? And with a back injury and getting older and all that. So I went back to school, of course, being so mad at the pharmaceutical company and the medical profession. I went back to school and I got a degree in for AODA counseling. I wanted to be a counselor. I wanted to teach people and tell people, look, this is not, good for you. And I learned a lot in taking those courses. And one of the things that sticks out in my teachings are, it doesn't matter if you're doing heroin or cocaine off the street, or if you're taking OXYCONTINs or Percocets from the pharmacy. It's all derived from the same stuff. It's all derived from the poppy plant. It's all derived from the coca plant. It's all derived. It's just chemically, and it's just monitored and controlled that way. But it's the same thing. You become addicted to those, either one, just as quick as the other, depending on how much you put inside your body and what your metabolism is like, stuff like that. But
Yeah.
so I learned that too, and
So as far as your injury goes, they were just prescribing you all this pain medication, kept upping the doses, ended up getting into the fentanyl patches, OxyContin. Yet did any of the doctors ever really take a good look at your back injury to say, you know what, maybe we can try this and see where this goes? I mean, did they look for a solution, or did they just keep covering it up with Band-Aids?
Sure, absolutely. I think about all the specialists I saw. There might have been 1 in 10 that was like an honest straight shooter, like interested in, I had some robotic surgeries done on my stuff. And I think that him and another guy, they knew what the drug was, and they knew what I was doing. I was getting the drug right at this point, 5, 6, 7 years into it. And they really did go out of their way to try to warn me and tell me about certain things. But by that time, it was too late. I was already hooked. I was already on, so I appreciate those doctors. But like I said, 1 or 2 out of the 10 or 20 that I saw, other than that, everybody else, their solution was just to give you more, higher dosage, take it twice a day. Yeah. Let me give you a better one. We'll get you off this one and try this one, or take them both together. I'm like, okay.
My hell.
Yeah, it was something.
I'm surprised you were even able to function, to be honest with you.
It messed me up.
Yeah,
you got the cocktail, dude.
Yeah, that is a hell of a cocktail.
And then I drink too. I used to drink a lot back then too, so the alcohol didn't help either. So now I'm doing that too, and it's exacerbating. It was a shit show.
Yeah.
It's just hard for me to imagine. And I had my first shoulder surgery for a torn rotator cuff in 2002. Mm-hmm. And I have a pretty high pain tolerance. So I don't remember what pain medication the doctor gave me. He actually wanted me to stay overnight. And I'm like, no, I'm going home. Mm-hmm. And he gave me a pain medication. And when the block wore off, so they do a block, just kind of like what they do for women who are having babies, right? They do the block. And that block started wearing off about 12:30 that night. And I had the surgery early in the morning. I think at 7 o'clock, I was already in the room and they were starting to cut me open. Sure. And when that started wearing off, that block, man, I was popping those pain pills and I was flipping, pacing the floor because the pain was so intense. And then, of course, I'm like, yeah, I should have listened to the damn doctor and stayed in the hospital. And it didn't matter how many painkillers I took, nothing was happening. So my wife actually was able to get a hold of the doctor early that following morning and said, man, this guy's in freaking pain. He prescribed 5 OxyContins, only 5, and had her go pick them up. And she came home and she gave me 1. And by this time, I think it's around 9:30, 10 o'clock the following morning. And I took it and within a short period of time, I could just feel myself just kind of like being a turd in the hot sun. I just kind of started just kind of melting in the couch, and the pain went away. And she's like, I'm going to go to the store. Don't you dare move from this couch. And
don't worry.
I know, right? It was, I couldn't stand up. I had to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, I couldn't even stand up. I literally crawled off the couch with my arm in my sling, scooted on my butt to where I could get my back up against the wall. And I scooted down the hall on my butt to where I could get in the bedroom. And what was stupid, I went right past the bathroom that was in the hall so I could go to the bathroom in the master bathroom. That's how messed up I was. I wasn't even thinking, right?
That didn't matter, though.
It didn't matter.
No, nothing mattered.
And now that I've heard all this stuff about OxyContin, I mean, this is umpteen years later, I'm like, I don't understand how people could even function on that stuff. Because for me, it literally, I mean, I think I ended up taking 3 out of those 5 OxyContin. And after that, I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. And luckily, just luckily for me, I could have fell in that same category as you, Brett. It just as easy.
Oh, sure.
Just as easy because of the pain.
Oh, yeah,
and
it made me feel good.
Yeah, right. Right.
Sure.
And you have a chance of actually hurting yourself even more. Because I mean, literally it does. It takes that pain. It's gone like that in an instant.
It's definitely happened many times. I've cut myself and injured myself on a job because I was so high and I couldn't concentrate and focus. Certain of it, 100% certain of it.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier in the show that you was wondering why you were getting the flu or getting sick because you never did before. When you said that, I'm going, I wonder if he was actually getting the flu or getting sick, or if he was actually going through withdrawals.
I was going through withdrawals.
That's what it was.
You know, there might have been one time. Like I said, I'm relatively healthy. I don't get sick. I mean, the last time I've gotten the flu that I know was the flu was when I was a child. No, it was definitely the withdrawals. It became more and more prevalent the longer this went on, and you know, you get subtle feelings within your body that only I can understand. That's what that is. At that point, you do something long enough, you become an expert at it. I was an expert at having withdrawals.
So you said like it was withdrawals, but like you also said like you didn't start getting sick until 5 years. Was that 5 years like when the doctors, like the prescriptions weren't working, or you were taking it less? Like what?
Right.
Like
so it hit an apex somewhere where, you know, they're like, we can't give you more. I'm like, well, I want more. The pain's still there. And I don't know if I was fooling myself, lying to the doctors just to get more drugs because I was taking more. You know, I noticed I was buying some more on the street at this time.
Okay.
You know, this is some years into it. But yeah, at those lags, you get sick. I'm sure you guys both know now from doing this show that if you don't have that substance in your body shuts down.
Yeah.
So yeah, you get the flu basically. And that's why people go on those crazy excursions to get more, do whatever they need to do to get more, because they know that I'm sick right now. I have 103 temperature. I'm throwing up. I got dry heaves. I'm sweating. I'm shaking. I can't fucking move. I can't do anything. All I need is one hit, and I'll be back to new. I'll be back to normal. So that's the other part of, you know, that's the headache part of it, and the really disheartening part about it is that when it takes over your body like that, the substance in your body demands it, and it gets sick, and until you put it back in your body. I mean, that's a pretty evil product.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad people like yourself, Brennan. I know that you says you've not done other podcasts, you know, and I hope you do more, because really more and more people need to hear this, because again, have the opportunity when you can watch that Dope Sick, and you're going to get it. You'll get it like that, and you'll understand. And how this family they created the The addiction, the heroin addiction, really, because that's when everything spiked, when the heroin's addiction spiked, because once OxyContin started getting too hard to get, once they started shutting down the pill boxes and everything else like that, and the doctors that were prescribing them like water,
Yeah.
you know, they had to go somewhere. And from what I learned from watching these shows is heroin gives you the exact same high as OxyContin. It's the exact same high, and it's much cheaper.
Yeah,
you know,
like
much
Brendan
cheaper.
said, like from the plant, like that's from like the poppy seed plant. Like
Yeah.
they all from that. So
Yeah,
it's just crazy that it does it. And then like I remember on another interview that like with Beth Macy,
yeah,
with what you said, that like within the last like 5 years, just like opiates and narcotics alone have killed about like 7 million people, was it?
Oh, yeah. I think it was 70 million. No,
70
maybe it was 7.
7, but it's still in the millions. You're
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah. If you go back, like what Mason's talking about, so Beth Macy, who wrote the book Dope Sick, and which inspired the 8-part series Dope Sick on Hulu, she was a guest on our show about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
And she was only able to be on the show for about a half hour, but Ed Bish, who's been on the show twice, his son overdosed from OxyContin. Just one OxyContin, one. He's never, ever heard of OxyContin, ever, until the day his son died from an OxyContin. And he's a big advocate now of going after the Sackler family. Yeah, he's after him. And yeah, so people who are telling their story, but if you go back and watch that episode, like Mason's saying, I think it's something. Matter of fact, I could probably go through my notes. I'll go through my notes more when we're chatting, but you will be shocked of how many. So we'll stop for a quick commercial break, and I'm going to look this up so we can get the number, because when she said it, I was just like floored. Yeah. And I remember writing it down. So people like yourself who are out there sharing their story, man, it just gives us the opportunity to start getting it out there, so people are starting to realize what the hell's been happening. I mean, we've been having the wool pull over our eyes for a lot of years, and it's time we pull that wool off, right?
Yeah, absolutely time.
Yeah. Okay, guys, stay with us. We're going to be right back.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast.
Hey everyone, we're back from the commercial break.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the other side of addiction. As Mason says, we're back from the commercial breaks. And we just want to say thank you again to Brendan for taking time out of his day to be with us, Brendan. So thank you. And where are you at right now? I didn't even ask that question at the start.
In the country or
Yeah.
I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Milwaukee. Oh my gosh. Holy cow. So I bet it's cold as hell there now, right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little gloomy today. It's about 35. Yeah, it's normal for us. It's like a heat wave. 35 is pretty warm for us. So
nice.
Yeah. We've had some days in the 40s with snow and rain. When I got up and went to the gym this morning, it was 28 degrees this morning when I went to the gym. So it was cold, but the skies are clear. So whenever the skies get clear here, man, it gets freaking cold. So
yeah, we've got that dry cold.
The dry cold. But the humidity cold is worse because I lived in Kentucky for 3 years, and I tell you what, you could have 7 coats on and it just still goes right through you.
Cold and wet is a bad combination.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And Brendan or Mason, thank you also for being here to be our guest.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate it. So the first half of the show, we were talking about your back injury, how the doctor started prescribing all types of pain medication to you. Took you some time, about 5 years, you started figuring out, man, this is what's probably causing my sickness. There's got to be something different. We had a gentleman on our show quite a long time ago. He's the owner of a recovery center called Wasatch Recovery. And what got him to start it is he actually had like a brain aneurysm. And they basically, when they got him to the hospital, the doctors basically told the family members, you better start telling people to come and say their goodbyes because he's going to die. And they had him on some pretty high doses of pain medication. He ended up with so many prayers, he came out of it. And he said he remembers how he felt like his skin was just moving, like he was just crawling. It was just crawling. And it was in that short period of time, he had become addicted to the pain medication. Is that something that you found as well? And he luckily didn't have to go through a rehab, but it sounds like you had to go to a rehab to kind of get yourself back on track.
Several times. Yeah. And I'm very familiar with the skin crawling aspect of that story. So yeah, I'm not sure what the question was. So you literally, because as you mentioned the first half of the show, you realized that you had to keep taking this stuff, right? So you could work and keep a roof over your family's head. So it's almost kind of like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. You want to get away from it because you now realize you're addicted to it. However, how can you get away from it? Because you can't work, right? Because the pain it shuts you down. So yeah, you become very lethargic and weak. You don't have the energy to do much. I think there's depression that plays into all kinds of brain chemistry goes on once you stop using that drug. And it takes your body a while to reacclimate to what it was before you started using that substance. I heard somebody say one time, well, how long have you been on the medication? Okay, about 5 years. Well, it's going to take at least half that time for you to re-know yourself or your body to relearn itself. So 2.5 years of not taking this substance to make up for 5 years of actually using the substance. I don't know how true that is, but it seems right to me because that's what it took me a little over 2.5 years when I finally quit using all substances, Suboxone and everything that, the methadone that I was taking and all that stuff, got rid of all that stuff out of my system. Then I had to rebuild my body back to the way it was and get used to normal living as I perceive normal living.
Yeah, took a while. Well, I was going to say that's usually what I hear from my clients. I'm a licensed massage therapist and work in neuromuscular work in fascia and from pain pills or anything, however long you take doing that or dealing with it usually tends to take half, but sometimes if you do better work, it does it. So I just want to like say, I hope someone has said this to you, but like, good job at doing that, dude. Like that, that is hard stuff. And like, even like going with like the accidental overdoses, like most deaths from hard drugs tend to be accidental. So like, you're still here, man. Good job.
Hey, it was real close, guys. Let me tell you.
Yeah, you almost got it. But, you know, you're just like, hey, I'm the handyman. I gotta live longer.
That wasn't my thought. It was more like my kids, but okay.
There you go. See, and that's great. You know, you had a great support. So you definitely had people who were supporting you, and that you had something to fight for, because people tend to not have that sometimes. And that's when I tell you what,
without my son and without my cousin Tina, I tell you, I don't really know if I would have made it. Those guys really, they didn't do anything, honestly. They were just there. But yeah, if I had to give thanks to anybody, it would be those two right there. They're lifesavers for me. So
you know, and that's so cool that you say that, Brendan. And just so people know, during the commercial break, I was checking the notes from when Beth Macy was on. 7 million people became addicted to opioids during the OxyContin crisis. So basically 7 million people became addicted to OxyContin. That's a huge number. And I bet you probably over half of those people are no longer even with us.
Yeah, because that's what I was gonna say. I'm just like, they probably didn't, like, she didn't tell us deaths, but
no,
I mean,
no. But there is a huge amount of deaths due to it. Due from the OxyContin. And to go back to the family, you know, Brendan, it's so good that you had the support, because a lot of times when a loved one or a friend is battling addiction, we lose relationships, right, with family and friends because of how we act, right, who we become. It's not really us. We start turning into someone different, and it's not us. It's because of the drug that's changing us from the inside out, really. You know, and with us not even realizing it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I used to be a guy that in the morning, with the job that I had, I would go in and drink a pot of coffee. I mean, I would have a pot of coffee in me between 7 and 8:30. I'd already have drinking a pot of coffee. And I started realizing how irritated I was becoming. And I had to really start doing some thinking. It's like, oh my hell, it's because of the coffee. Once I cut my coffee intake down, I started settling down. I'm thinking it's the same way with the drugs. You know, you start realizing that you're becoming someone that you really haven't been before. And to have someone in your corner, not like I was in my wife's corner. I was in my wife's corner the wrong way. I was there to support her as long as she was sober. However, when she was drinking, I was just throwing more daggers at her. She was already full of them, and I just kept putting more in her because I didn't understand, right? And she even told me once, she goes, for once, I wish you'd be my damn husband instead of my effing therapist. And I still didn't get it, right? I still didn't get it. That would be like me telling... Right. It would be like me telling, you know, when Sylvia's talking about having a baby, what it feels like. And I'm going, yeah, I get you. I understand. Well, how the hell do I understand? I've not ever had a baby. Right. So how the hell am I supposed to help my wife when I don't understand what she's going through? So to have your son and to have Tina in your corner that was there just for support, that's freaking huge.
Yeah. It makes a big difference. And unfortunately, I know there's people out there that are addicted that really truly don't have anybody. I feel that's a key component to recovery, is to have at least one person in your, somebody or you can believe in and that believes in you. I think that's part of the way to get out of that.
Yeah. And so, like, trailing off of like all the conversation, it seems that like support is the thing, but like being on the other side of addiction. So like with you, with your family support, because you said you lost it and then you like got that one person, like what were the things that they did that did support you? Because a lot of people, like, they trail off and like usually it was like, it's the hard, they yelled at me, but like for you, like what was it that did it where you felt like you had the support and you could do that?
So I don't think it was one little thing, but it were little quips of things that would come in. For one, the constant failure to my family and eventually losing them because they wrote me off as a lost cause at some point.
Mhm.
But there were moments within there where we'd have some type of heart-to-heart moment where we could look at each other in the eyes and just know that that love was there, or maybe the crying or something like that would always stay in my mind. So I actually wrecked all my relationships in life, and I was basically homeless for a little while. I lost my home, didn't work anymore, lost all my vehicles, my trucks, all my tools.
been there.
Everything got destroyed and lost. And so now I'm wandering on the shitty part of town, still doing my thing. And they're like, I'm done with dad. I'm done with, my cousin. I've tried to help him so many times, and I tried to tell him I love him and this and that. And we as addicts at that point, we just do what we want to do. But it was actually, I think, the moment that I realized that there was nobody left, that I had to make a choice, a tough choice. Do I want to live? I mean, what it really came down to. I had to ask myself that. And for whatever reason, even though my life was shitty and hell, and I was sleeping in the gutter, basically, my answer to myself or God or whoever I was speaking to at the time was, I do. And I reached out, and of course nobody wanted to help me because I've already burned all my bridges. And I think it was that aspect of them actually even listening to me or answering the phone that gave me the strength, and then not doing anything for me, actually saying, okay, well, this is it. This is the last time. We're going to drop you off at this rehab. Good luck, and the fact that they didn't do anything for me outside of dropping me off at a rehab was it. And I mean, this last time was, I just kind of surrendered to everything and said, okay, we got to do this, because if you don't, you're going to die.
Yeah.
I chose life, basically, I guess.
Yeah. You made that decision, and to do it, it seems like, and then listening to the other podcast, it's either loss of love, or choosing to live that tend to be the ultimatum, but it's making that decision.
Yeah.
So, I mean, good job on that, dude.
Thank you. It was.
How long are you in recovery?
So I was in recovery many times. I've been in Rogers, I don't know, a couple times, and a couple other clinics, and so the last time it was just a 3-month program type of deal. So it was a residential type of thing. I went in for 3 months. Actually, I didn't make my 3 months. I made 88 days. I was 2 days short or something like that, because my daughter had a baby, and I says, well, I'm good. I feel healthy. I'm not going to use. I'm going to Florida to see my grandson be born. This was another thing that kind of helped me push forward, I guess, so to speak, a new baby. And so yeah, 3 months, I guess, to answer your question there, Mason.
And then after that 3 months, you were straight from there, and then got to the point where you are now?
Yeah, it took me 4 years, honestly, to get back to good enough health. And fortunately, with my son, he was able to give me a place to stay. And I was able to rebuild myself, my neural pathways again, from doing so much damage in my body, muscular, physically. But it took me 4 years. I'm 5 years, 4 months sober now.
Congratulations. That's
Very
awesome.
nice.
Yeah.
So the last year and a half or some, it's finally where I got to the point where I could actually do stuff myself. I got my own place, and working again and doing things that make me feel good and stuff like that. But it took 4 years, and I'm not saying I laid around for 4 years, but it took that long to get me back in the game, so to speak.
Nice.
It's a process, and we've heard many of the guests on our show say that when they decided to get their life back on track, they had support, whether it was from another addict or from a family member, that said, it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. And we've said on the show many times, Brendan, that people don't wake up to say, I'm going to be an alcoholic. I'm going to be a heroin addict. I'm going to be a meth addict. I'm going to be a fentanyl addict. They don't wake up and decide that one day. something happens in their lives, right? Whether it's some kind of trauma or a mental health, an accident, which we've heard, I don't know how many times, an accident. It was just that time when that's what doctors did. They just pulled out a pen and a paper and wrote a prescription. And that's what started a lot of the stuff. It takes that time, just as it took the time for you to fall into that addiction and realize it. It takes that time. Even you said it a little earlier, about half the time or so, to where you can finally start getting your head on straight, right? And start moving forward with your life, even though you're still battling it, because, you are unplugging a lot of the neurons and replugging new things in. However, you still got those few that are still plugged in going, oh man, today's been a shitty day. I could just go down the street over here and I know I can get me something just like that if I wanted to. And it's that battle, right? It's almost like the good angel and the devil angel, or however you want to call it. You got the devil on one side, angel on the other side, where the one in the red's over there going, no, man, come on, you're hurting today. Let's do this. And you got the other one going, no,
It's better not.
Yeah, better not. Just remember where your life was at. So it's that battle for some time before you can finally start at least feeling free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now when the guys drive up to me and ask if I want a free sample, I'm just like, I'm good, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, that takes strength.
Back then, if they would have caught me at the right time, it would have been a different story.
Yeah. Another time you would have been like, yeah, but like, I mean,
what you got?
especially like just like being an American, getting something for free, saying no to something for free, but especially like, a substance, like, more power to you, man. That's great.
Yeah, because that's what it usually takes, right? I mean, even we've had people come on the show that my wife was one of them. She, 13 months sober. She went 13 months sober one day and thought she had it kicked in the ass. And she's, hey, I got this, man. And she took one sip of alcohol, and within a week, she got her first DUI, thrown in jail. I mean, it just imploded on her, you know, and me, it was the same way, I had a very, very stressful job and went to a party, was offered a line of cocaine. I'm like, man, I haven't done coke for a freaking long time. Hell yeah, let's do one. And then next thing I knew, I was doing it every weekend.
Yeah. Same story.
Same story.
Yeah. I went back to school when I went and got my AODA counseling certificate, which didn't work, by the way, because in the state of Wisconsin, if you owe a debt to the state, you can't get a professional business license. So I couldn't be a counselor because I owed child support to one of my kids' moms. So they wouldn't let me after I graduated and got my degree, they wouldn't let me get a license to practice in the state to teach AODA counseling. So about that time, this is 5 years later, close to it, I had a breakup with a girl who I loved and still do today. And then I went back into construction, been sober for 5 years, pouring a concrete driveway one day and kind of wrenched my back. I asked one of the guys, hey, can you give me some pain meds? This guy knew what I'd been through. He's like, you sure you want to do that? I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to take a couple. It hurts so fucking bad. I got those pain meds, and then it was done from there. So then I was hooked right again at that point. And that's when I actually started using heroin. I substituted at that point because I went back to my doctors, and they're like, no, B, we're not giving you no more. You can't even do it at this time. There's so many restrictions. This is 2018 at the time or something like that, or 13 or something like that. So they tightened down on all those willy-nilly prescriptions they were writing back in the 1990s, So that's exactly how it happened to me too, Al. It just, that one time I went back to it, and then and then I had to substitute because I couldn't actually get the drugs from the doctors anymore. And I couldn't afford to buy them off the street because they were so damn expensive at that time, $50 for a pill.
Yeah.
So, then it went to heroin, and then I was using heroin for, 5 years before I finally went into that rehab. And, and then it took me 4 years to clean up. So here we are. But yeah, same story over and over.
It's such a vicious cycle. And I'm glad that you brought that up about where you're at with the way that the laws are. My wife and I just did a show last week. A matter of fact, our show comes out Monday. If you have an opportunity to get on YouTube and watch it, please do. And the topic of the show was the system is broken.
Oh yeah.
Is here in Utah, the way they have these laws set up, the laws are set up for people who want to get into recovery. It's set up for them to fail. I mean, seriously, it is. It's been going this way for so many years, and the epidemic just keeps growing. And one day I was at the gym and I'm working out, and this stuff is running through my mind because my wife's had a hell of a time finding a job because she has an assault charge on her record. And my wife has gone into, matter of fact, she just got hired on this week. She's in training as a certified peer support specialist.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you want to become a certified peer support specialist, it goes through the state. So you go in, you fill out an application. They ask people on this application, my wife had to ask people to say, why would she be a good peer support specialist? Well, she'd be a good peer support specialist because she's gone through the addiction. She knows what it's like. She's been there. She's done it, right? She's had the baby, correct?
Fair enough.
So she sends it into the state. The state accepts it. Good. Yes, we will allow you to go through your training. She goes through a week's worth of training, passed the test. Week and a half later, in the mail, she gets her certificate. She is freaking beaming. She's like, I did it. She's so excited because now she can go out and help other people that are struggling.
Yeah, for sure.
So guess what she does? She goes out there and starts filling out applications online to get hired on at a recovery center.
Yeah.
They call her in for an interview. She has her interview. They love her. She tells them her past. No worries. This is what's on my background. No worries. It'll be all right. 3 jobs. She's gotten hired to where she worked a day and a half on one, 3 days on another, 1 week on another. The background check comes back, they fire her.
Right. Yeah.
So how frustrating is that for someone who goes through an addiction, working their ass off like yourself to get their lives back on track, just to be turned around and kicked back in the teeth and just go back out on the street so we can bitch about you some more, right?
It was numbing. It was numbing experience for sure. I didn't know how to handle that one either. I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me.
Right.
Did all that. They don't tell you when you're signing up that, that's going to happen. It's like, yeah, give us your money to come to school. We'll train you. We'll teach you.
Yeah. And then deny you. Yeah. And it's not, and I'm not knocking the places that hired her. Okay. So I want to get that straight. It's not the places that hired her. Right. Because when you're working with mental health and recovery, the state requires these places to have certain type of people working there. Mm-hmm. So the state who approved her certificate and training was denying her the job.
Mm-hmm.
So you tell me what part of that freaking makes sense. It doesn't. And
broken,
if my wife didn't have the strength that she has right now, she could have fallen right back into the alcoholism like that.
Like that, for sure.
Just like that.
Mm-hmm. Just like that.
Yep. Just for her to get back into the system so they can make more money off of her. Basically, that's how I look at it.
I don't get it either.
Yeah. And it sounds like it's the same way there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's disheartening, to say the least. It's sad that all this comes out. The older we get, we kind of figure this stuff out slowly and surely. The system it's 100% broken. It's on all fronts. I mean, the medical profession, the food industry, the pharmaceutical industry. It's all in shambles, which is sad. That's a different podcast again.
Well, and as I was saying, I was at the gym one morning and I'm thinking about it. And I started telling myself, somebody needs to do something about it. Somebody needs to do something about it. And then I remember years ago, I heard somebody say, a lot of times people are saying, why doesn't someone do something about it? Well, why not you?
Right.
So I'm kind of throwing some little whispers out there, hoping it'll get in the right ear to
For
where I can get to the right person that will hear me out to see if we could get up on the hill where our state capital is at and make a difference. Oh, did we lose you? I think we lost him.
Bye, Brendan.
Yep. Well, we'll just continue talking. Hopefully
Yeah.
he'll come back on.
Yeah.
I think he lost connection. I think he lost connection on his side. So we'll just kind of keep talking. So Mason, I mean, where do you think this has gone so far? This has been, I mean, really good as far as I'm concerned.
It's been really good. I mean, the key points that I touched on is like, I mean, knowing that like he had support, like that seems to always be the biggest thing in people's recovery. It may not be like exactly what you want, but either like loss of getting the love that you need and then like looking for it, losing it all, and then finding new love for yourself and choosing to live, which, you know, like love and life tend to be a huge thing right now. Like, well, it's always a huge thing. I mean,
absolutely.
The world feeds off of love in literally everything.
Yeah.
And the lack of is when you start to deteriorate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
and you know, we also too, being on the side of the addiction, we finally do have to take accountability from the choices, you know, that we made. And I know that was like one of the hardest things for my wife to do was to take that accountability. And I am right at the top of the pedestal for doing that, because how long did I keep my story secret?
Yeah.
And talked about my wife's,
Yeah.
right? So the choice finally came out for me that it's time for me to also speak about it and get it out there. I'm the one that caused the problem for me, no one else. I'm the one that chose the road that I went down. You know, so as long as I can take accountability and not put the blame. So, hey, we got you back. So we just continued to go. No, it's all good. We just continued to go.
Thanks, Jerry.
No. you need to hire her as your producer.
She's on the payroll already. She's
That's great.
So anyway, as I was saying that right before something happened, we'll just call it a technical difficulty, right? Technical difficulty. I finally decided, you know, why can't it be me? Because I know I will have the backing. I know there's a lot of people out there, you know, as far as let's get up to the state capitol. I mean, it may take a year, it may take 2 years to get there. However, let's start making a change, and let's start getting it out there for people to realize. I have no belief in our judicial system at all. And I used to be one that did. And after what I've seen, what my wife's gone through and heard a lot of what our guests have gone through, I do not believe in it. And I'm just going to flat ass say it. It's all a business, and it's all about they don't give a shit about the people.
Yeah,
it's just flat ass. That's
not
just
the
how
poor
I see
people.
it.
Anyways, they don't care about the poor people. They, you know, you got money, you can get out for that, no problem.
Right, and I'm glad you said that, because that's another pet peeve of mine. You know,
why do you keep picking on the poor people?
My wife, the first time she got pulled over for a DUI, she lost her license.
Yeah,
I have a friend who the family asked her to take care of one of their loved ones who's an alcoholic. 5 DUIs. 5. Never had his license pulled after the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth. He actually still has a license. And you know why? Because this guy's got money.
He got a good lawyer.
He has money.
That's how that works.
So we talk about our government's doing everything they can to separate us, to split us, using discrimination towards us. That's discrimination right there. Our own states are discriminating us because whether we have money or not, right? That's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
It's discrimination.
Yeah, it's true discrimination. I mean, like, might get like dinged for this, but like it's just like it seems that like laws and rules seem to be more for the poor, because the ones who are more fortunate are just like, oh, parking ticket, cool, I just got that in an hour, like, okay, cool, like, you know, oh, like this charge, like, but like, you know, the ones who like suffer from it are the ones who don't have as much money, or like, you know, that $200 is my groceries for the month, you know. It's
exactly right.
It's backwards. It's
Yeah,
definitely
they
backwards.
put more of those things
It's like
on
interest rates.
addicts and homeless people, and like now you've got all these fines, and you're just like, give it to the rich people who gave me these drugs, dude.
Yeah. Well, the ones that can pay it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, Brandon, man, it has been literally such a pleasure having you on the show today. I mean, it really has.
Yeah. Thank
This
you.
has been just
Thank
a
you, guys.
great show. Is there anywhere else you would like to take this? Is there a message you want to get out to our listeners that you think is really important? And I don't mean to put you on the spot, so if nothing comes up, that's fine, but I always like to ask.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. I mean, just
Okay.
that it is possible. I know it's, for me at moments in my life, it seems so bleak, but it definitely is possible. And I think the key thing is just have somebody or something that you can believe in.
Mm-hmm.
Dig your feet in, plant your feet firm, and do what you need to do. I think another thing that I wrote down was that I think as far as recovery, to do recovery, I changed my mindset on recovery because it failed so many times. I always did it to figure out a way to stop taking the drug, which was my angle on it. I'm going to go into recovery. I'm going to figure out a way that you're going to teach me how to stop using this drug. And I think the last time when I went into recovery and I surrendered to everything, I went in there saying, I'm not going to figure out how to stop taking this drug. I'm just going to go in there and figure out how to do something different. So I think that was a big thing for me to do. Focus on in recovery was not focus on not doing the drug, but just focus on doing something different that didn't include the drug. So I don't know. I don't really.
That's really good. And earlier in the show, Brendan, I heard you say that you just basically finally surrendered.
That was the huge thing.
Yeah.
That was a huge thing. I wasn't trying to kid myself anymore. I wasn't trying to fool the people that were around me. I wasn't trying to take advantage of any system, which I've done many times in the past. At that final point, I knew it was a matter of life and death, and that's just the hardcore facts of it. I knew that I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs anymore. I knew that it was coming close. It was knocking on the door, and it was going to take me if I didn't decide to live for whatever reason. So I just surrendered to everything, and I gave it all up to God, honestly,
Yeah.
And I said, okay, this is it. If there's still a purpose, it's going to be right now. And here I am. So there must be a purpose in it. And there has been. There's great things that have happened since then. So,
Yeah.
Very blessed.
And I'm a firm believer that we all walk our path for a reason, and some of it's good and some of it's bad. And it's to put us exactly where we're supposed to be at
For
right
sure.
this moment, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I agree with you 100%.
Mason, is there anything you'd like to add?
Not add, but just like enunciate on it, because like I really love what you said, like, find that someone or something that will like
Super important.
push or who will support you. But then like my thought after that was like, even if it is like just yourself, because like you're there like out of the womb to the end of it, it's still you at the end of the day. So like I mean, if you can even learn like self-love, which like
big key,
you did, like more power to you. I'm definitely working on that on myself, because like I feel support on it, but then learning that like self-love and be like, why do I want to live? Do I want to live? And then you're like, oh, this is why I like to live. Oh, I do love myself, and I need to take care of myself.
Yeah.
So
so with us as human beings and getting caught up in the 3D world and the way society has basically molded us, we feel like we can't be happy unless we have material things, which we talked about on our live show yesterday, and or how somebody else makes us feel.
Yeah.
We're forgetting about us.
Yeah, the self-esteem.
And once we do learn how to love ourselves, it's almost like everything else kind of falls right back into place.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or even like out of place, because we learn that self-love, and then the ones who don't respect that kind of just
Yes. So true. It's awesome for sure. That is a big key to this whole process.
Yeah. I was in a meeting yesterday after I spoke at a Women in Business, and gentleman that I was meeting with, very, very smart individual, and he's got some really good things that he's working on right now. But one of the things that he says that he has written down in his book as part of his training things is we've got to learn how to take the things that aren't benefiting us, whether those are our own thoughts and feelings about who we are as individuals, or whether it's somebody that's not treating us right, whatever it may be, and basically look at it as a log that is actually decaying, and you want to get rid of it, right? So you just throw that son of a bitch in the fire, let it burn, get rid of it, right?
I've been burning a lot of shit lately.
Let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go, right? And
Burn it, man.
maybe
Send it out to the
that
universe. I
log's
don't
got
need you
some
anymore.
termites or some ants
For
and
sure.
stuff in it, but you just burn the son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Throughout our whole talk, we were there for almost 2 hours talking and meeting about stuff, and would say something, and we were actually sitting right next to a fireplace at a coffee shop, and he kept doing this. And he's like, you know what that means, right? And I'm like, I got
Yeah,
it now.
there
You
we
know, you're
go.
throwing the shit in the
I
fire.
got a new thing. You should start doing
Yep.
that in the show, like
And
without even saying anything, just out of nowhere. Like when you say something, just be like,
Yeah, just go like this.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
oh my
joining. I'm
gosh,
getting in on
again,
that.
yeah, you start doing it too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it too.
Make it a thing. You only need 3 people to coin something. So there we go. We've done
yeah,
it.
that's it. Yeah.
Next year we'll see something like that on TV. We'll be like, we started.
Yeah, it'll be on TikTok or Sean Hannity or CNN. You know, they'll just start doing their own thing, and it's older people instead of the younger generation. There we go. There we go. Trendsetter.
My goodness.
I better put a trademark on this right away.
Yeah.
Your son-in-law's a lawyer.
Yeah.
I want 30% royalties.
Yeah.
Oh, 30%? Okay.
33.3 to be exact.
33.3.
I want to own 51% of this company.
Okay. We're gonna have to talk then, because I think this was a joint effort here. We all came up with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll split it equally, right? That's what makes it right. So again, Brendan, thank you so much for
It was a pleasure.
with
Thank
us
you, gentlemen.
sharing your story. And I hope you have the opportunity to get your story out there to some more people. You know, again, I don't know, that's up to you whether you want to talk more about it. It's very, very helpful, I know, in the recovery realm for those that get up and share their story and talk about what's happened in their life. And there's so many people that need to hear it's possible to get out of it, right? It's possible. And you're a great example, and Mason is a great example, and hopefully I'm a good example. And so many of all our guests have been great examples that it's possible. You can do it. You can do it.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
don't sign off. Okay. We'll end the show, but don't leave us yet, because I want to talk to you about something that guys, again, thank you for all your support. Thanks for all your love. We appreciate you. Again, none of this would be possible if it wasn't for all our sponsors, all our listeners, Resilience Talk Network, everyone that comes in the studio here and helps us out with the cameras and our live shows. I mean, my gosh, our live shows are starting to take off, and we've still got technical things we're still working on in that, but it's getting better and better every week. We love and appreciate every single one of you guys. So thank you so much. Remember this: addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.
Nice.